So many children grow up unaware of how great they are. They're made to feel insignificant in their own life, so they're not even aware of their own importance. I find that actually quite remarkable, and unfortunately, that can grow into adulthood. So even adults have no sort of concept of the fact that they should be a priority in their life. Now, when we're nurturing our children from a baby, all the way through, it's impossible to be perfect, and I think you have to release that expectation of because the problem is that's too much pressure. I was recently talking to someone, and I said, "There's no if you're of no service to yourself, then you're no good to anyone else." So it really important that you recharge your battery. You have to take time for you, and it's not feel guilty for not being available all the time. You can't possibly give yourself to any other being, whether it's our children or not, all the time. You have to have time for yourself. But there is something I have noticed with the development of our children. Like me personally, I've always been hands on with my daughter. We have an incredible relationship, but I was there the whole way through and I was constantly nurturing her. So I was constantly talking to her. So her communication skills were far advanced than those of her age group, especially with siblings and things. She was well advanced. I can't remember the age at which she was starting to talk, but it was very quick, and that's because I was always talking to her. And that's the thing. There's too many people who they're detached from their children. I call it like active parenting. I'm an active parent. I was always with her, always playing, holding her hands, encouraging her to stand up, and just playing all the time, playing peekaboo and all sorts. So she was learning that engagement consistently. There's certain things I think we really do need to, like, if I did it all over again, there's certain key points that I would never deviate from. For me, these are incredibly important. One is obviously manners. I think it's so important. You could be the most intelligent human, the most advanced and developed. You can have a child that develops at an incredible rate. But if they have no manners, it doesn't matter how intelligent they are, they're still going to be an arsehole of a human being as they get older. It's just the way it is. So you see it in nurseries, some kids are just detached from reality, really. They have too much self importance where they don't actually care about anyone else. And it's not hard to have manners. Say, please, thank you. It's incredibly, it shows humility, and I love it. And that's the one thing I was absolute with my daughter. Like growing up, it was always like manners, manners, manners. Always say please, always say thank you. It doesn't cost anything, and it just ingrains in them that politeness. And I think it's really important. There was another thing that I do, and I still do it today. And it makes her, she thinks it irritates her a little bit, but she always found it quite amusing growing up. And that was little things like she'd say, like we've always told each other we love each other, So there's always had this openness where you can cuddle, hug, and actually express yourself. I can't say I had that as a child myself, so I thought it's really important that she knows she's loved. Um, but there's one thing I used to do a little play on it, and if you do it wrong, it can be incredibly manipulative. So it's like, don't do anything to manipulate your own children. So she would say, "I love you," and I would say, sometimes I'd say, "I love you back," but then sometimes I'd say, "I love me too." There's a reason I did it. It wasn't to make me seem the most important person in the world. It was to show her that I love me. And I kept saying to her, like, when it come to it, she goes, "Oi," and I go, "I love you too." But what I kept turning it round was, it's important that you love you as well. So how much I love me and I cherish me like crazy. I said, you got to love you too, you know. Um, and it's been really important for her development. And now she is probably the most balanced. She's the most balanced person I know. Like it's incredible. She's took everything on board. She even says today, like, she learns a lot from me, and it's nice to have that sort of recognition. But it's more than witnessing it of myself within her, like her development. It's been absolutely crazy. It's like she doesn't keep herself in toxic situations, so if she outgrows an environment, she doesn't stick around in it. She doesn't let people manipulate her. She doesn't let people make her feel bad about herself. She won't do it. She'd rather be the odd one out than just fit into groups that don't align with her. Um, at 15 years old, nearly, she's only this year, over the last 6 months, really found her crowd. Before that, she maybe had 3 or 4 years of frustration, feeling a bit alienated. But we've been through a lot with family court and things. There was a problem really for her to go through. But she's found the people that they're all themselves. So it's like it's great. It's like finally the reward of seeing her own value. So they're the two main things. But I just think the other one is, of course, being active with our kids all the time. I just think it's so important. Like I said, you see so many parents, they just don't pay attention to their children, and they wonder why they can't talk, why they can't communicate properly, why their lack of development is, and it's as a parent, it's your own fault. It's your own fault. And that's like I was saying to someone recently, when your child is doing great, be proud of yourself too. Like, obviously be proud of them. Be absolutely proud. But don't forget to be proud of yourself. Like I said, there's the idea that we have to be perfect all the time. We're going to make mistakes. There's going to be times when maybe you think, I could have done more, I could have done it. We're human. We're human. But like, I've had issues with my family. I spoke about publicly quite a lot. And most of them has dysfunctional children. It's just the way it is, Some have had their children bite them. I can't say my daughter's ever tried to bite me. I've got some that are quite selfish and spoiled. They just think about themselves. It's like, there's dynamics. And, like with people, they always like to think they're better than someone else and things like that, and I always have that, and I always say, the truth is my daughter. She's the proof, so whatever. And of course, people like to put people down, so they try to like diminish her growth, I think, sometimes. And it's like, I don't really care what you got to say, because I know I'm with her all the time. I see her all the time. And I see her development. And she's incredibly remarkable. And as much of that is her own personality, she's had to be nurtured to be this way. It takes nurturing, because you can have children with the best intelligent and incredible personality, but then go wayward. I've spoke to other parents where their kids have gone down a negative path. They've got into the wrong crowds. They don't communicate with their parents and all these things. And I'm like talking to them, and I'm saying, look, I'm explaining. I'm not gloating. I'm just explaining. I'm saying that's not the relationship we have. Like for instance, even just yesterday, I think it was, she texted me because she's recently had a boyfriend for the last week or two, and she even just texted me. He hugged me again. She's very transparent with me. She's got no worry about sharing anything, and she's excited to share it. I saw something recently where people were talking about their kids. Teenagers for most teenagers don't want their parents following them on social media and all this. My daughter makes me follow her on social media. She'll literally send me her posts, content she creates, and tell me to like it, and like force me to like it. Even like, can you can you watch this and like it? So our relationships are very different, I think, to a lot. But then it's like the relationship you have is the one you've built and nurtured. It's not overnight. You can't just ignore your children their whole childhood and then expect them to care about you as they become older. It's like, what is your relationship as they grow? And of course, you've got to nurture them, allow them the independence when they need that independence to grow. Another thing is, I allow my daughter, and I think this is really important. Again, some things are so obvious to me that I don't remember it, so like I don't think about it. But because I'm just thinking now, one of the biggest things for me with her is I've always allowed her to express her emotions. I don't suppress it. If she gets angry, she has to let it out. If you're going to be angry, you're going to have to just be angry, If you're upset, you're upset. But what she knows is there is a line, of course. Don't push it, because then I will hold you accountable, because I can be firm. But I can't say for the most part that I've had to really raise my voice to her. It's so respectful. And that's only because I'm respectful to her too, Like, for instance, if she's got a journal and she's writing in a journal and she's putting her deepest thoughts, I would never look in that journal. I'm not even curious to look in that journal. That's personal to her, whatever she puts in there. Yeah, when she's I don't want to like start targeting people, but I have to sort of have an example here. When she's been with her mother and her partner's aware of this, her partner interferes. I don't know if he does it so much now, but in the past, he was always annoying. Like, when my daughter would come back and tell me all these things, and she said she hates it when he does this. She doesn't trust him because of it. It causes a problem where she doesn't feel comfortable in certain situations. And it's like, I don't know why someone would do that. Why would you do that? I don't understand why you have to be center of attention all the time. Now, again, the dynamic may have changed now, but that's what it was back then. And she'd be so annoyed by it all. And she said, the one thing I love about you is that you don't, you allow me space. You give me privacy, and it's like, yeah, well, it's a given. It's your space. Why am I invading it? Um, so what she knows with me is she has time. She can have time to herself. She can take a step back. She can process her thoughts, her feelings. She can even journal it if she feels she needs to. But she knows whenever she needs to talk, she can just come to me and we can chat. And she won't be judged for it. The one thing I do put on her, especially as she's got older, is decisions you make in your life are your decisions. It's not for me to live it for you, but you have to understand that every decision you make has a consequence for good and bad. So it's up to you to think of that consequence before you decide something, and then you have to own it. Because at the end of the day, it's only us are the only ones that can handle it. So like whatever you go through in life, it's up to us to be accountable, isn't it? It's not for me to judge someone's life journey and path. And of course, as she's getting older now, I make it clear to her that I don't care about grades. And this is all personal preference to me now. I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way. It's just I don't really care. I just don't care. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to go through life happy. Um, I've always had pressure on me my whole life from family and everybody and anything, and I've never conformed to it. I've always beat it to my own drum. And I want her to have the freedom to do that without the pressure. So I'm like a shield for her. I've never had that shield myself. I've been my own human shield. So I've been strong enough to take the weight of all of that expectation and do what I want to do anyway. But I think it's important I shield her so she's free. And that for me is so important. So I say to her, look, it's not that I don't care about your grades. If you do great, I'm proud. If as long as you try hard, as long as you do your best, it's irrelevant to me. So if you fail all your grades, I don't care. Don't feel ashamed. It's like at the end of the day, we can't all be A grade people. It's just ridiculous expectation. And I said, in the most part, really, when you actually look at jobs, is a lot of jobs are more interested in the skills you acquire. So you can start anywhere. As long as you've got the right mindset, you can level up anyway and progress. You don't necessarily, it doesn't matter really so much, depending on what you want to do with your life. If you said to me, I want to work in a museum or something, I'd say, well, okay, well, you're going to need grades to get in there because it's curated. It's not just anybody can apply and get in. So in that case, yeah. If you don't know what you want to do yet, then let's not worry so much. You can redo exams in the future. So I think people put too much pressure on themselves. I don't believe in homework. I think it's a load of crap. I think if you can't fit a curriculum in school hours, then the curriculum's too big. It's too complicated, and I just think they're stupid. Children need to be children. They need that level of freedom and time to grow. They're not adults, so we shouldn't be treating them as such. It's give them responsibility, but allow them time to express and breathe. So unfortunately, my daughter doesn't live with me at the moment. She is in her mother's care. If she was in my care, I would be like, if you want to do your homework, it's up to you. I'm telling you, I'm not forcing it on you. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. I don't care. And then if the teachers gave her detention, I don't care what the rules are. I would go down there. I would kick off. There's no way she's sitting in detention under like when she lives with me. No way. So I would get her out there. And if they say to me, that's the policy of the school, blah, 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 I say your school's shit then. And that's what I'm like. I stand up. I'm quite firm. I'd say your school's shit. If you can't teach them in the hours you've done, then you're not good enough. You're not going to punish her for your incompetence. And if they don't like it and it's really against the school policy, I've got no problem homeschooling her. I know I could do a good job with it. That's actually something I was talking recently about careers I potentially could have had. And one of them actually in my mid-20s, I was considering teaching. It was something I was thinking of going down that path, get the degree and whatnot so I can be a teacher. It wasn't something in the end I felt passionate enough to do. It wasn't really what I feel is my calling, but I know I can do it. So I have no doubt that if my if my daughter was to be homeschooled, I can come up with a format that would work for her. And I would also take her out a lot for field trips and things. We'd just do things, I don't see why you've got to be stuck in a classroom. It doesn't, again, it's all from personal experience. Everybody learns different, but I know that there's certain subjects at school that were pointless to me. I didn't pay attention. So with my daughter, I'd curate it based on her interests. Do you like that subject? Is it something that's really important for you to learn? Then forget about it. You don't need to learn about that. You can learn that in your own time if you're curious, but let's forget about that then. What's the core subjects that you do need, though? We have to make sure we do that. And we'll do it in a structured way where you're not burnt out all the time. I think I'd do a better job than the school. That's what I personally think. So I've got no qualms in doing it. You know, at the end of the day, I've not, you know, I've brought her up to an extent, you know, in my own way of being. And I'm really proud of her. Now, I've got a little video I'm going to do. I don't want to go on too long, because if I go on too long, we're going to lose the key points. And the key points, of course, are that we nurture our children, we pay attention to them, you build that bond, you communicate with them, you don't judge them for everything they do. You know, it's like allow them room to make mistakes. Think about it. You're not perfect yourself. None of us are. So if you sit there and expect your children to be perfect and you punish them for a mistake, it's like, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to be like a tyrant? Why, when your children respect you, they don't fight against you. So if you find yourself having to shout at your children all the time, just think about what sort of relationship you're building with them. They don't need a head teacher. It's just ridiculous. I see this all the time where people think, oh, yeah, you got to smack your kids. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do that if you've lost control of the household. But how have you lost control of the household? Because you didn't nurture them to begin with. You treated them like they were possession from birth. So the whole way through childhood, they're having to walk on eggshells. So you've created a situation. Think about it. No prisoner will ever fully conform. You back anyone into even a dog. You back anything into a corner, it snaps. That's what children do. So if you keep making the rules so stringent where they can't move an inch, eventually they start snapping. Then they lose it, because they're human beings. You know, they're not a toy. You don't just get to mimic and tell them what to. They're going to think and feel for themselves. And once they lose respect for you, it's like you've lost it. I said this in one of my books, Heal Your Mind to Free Your Soul. There's a chapter, Children. It's my favorite chapter. And I've said it in there. Once it becomes a shouting match, you've lost all control of the situation. The relationship is in decline. I think there's a tipping point where you can't recover, in all honesty. I think there is a tipping point, and I'd be very careful. So now I'm going to show the relationship between me and my daughter. I'm going to show a little video, one I just posted to TikTok. Posted it specifically for this video. I didn't expect this video to be so long, but I just want to show it. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I would say our relationship is as close to perfect as you can get. Um, yeah, you know, if she comes to me with anything, I give her the space. If she says she needs to call, can we talk? She can talk. The only thing sometimes when she is with me, because we're not together all the time, we only see each other at the holidays, which is sad. She does get a bit clingy, and then I get a bit exhausted, and she wants me to stay up until 3 a.m. when it's like, this is crazy. So she doesn't like me going to bed. You know, these are the only sort of like issues we have. Um, that really just comes from the lack of time we have together sometimes nowadays, you know. Um, but yeah, so anyway, let's show the video. I'll have to mute it, unfortunately, because I don't want any copyright strikes on this video. I don't know if it's going to have something issuey. But if anyone wants to watch it with sound, it is available on the previous video to this on TikTok. These videos when she's about 8 years old, I think, 7, 8-ish, maybe slightly older, 8, 9. She's 14 now, nearly 15. We don't take so many videos nowadays or photos. We're just more about enjoying the moment. I don't see the point of documenting every aspect of your life. I think sometimes there's a case of just enjoy it now. And that's really where we're at. It's not a case of just get the camera out. Let's record. It was more, let's record their childhood. Yeah. So as you can see, like, you know, we aren't serious all the time. We do have a very light relationship. See, some of these moments are through family court. That one there was a wind machine. We was going through family court. It was quite a difficult time for us both, but we tried to make the most of it. So, I mean, there's a lot more videos and photos, of course, but it's like at the moment everything's a bit sporadic. It's a bit scattered. Um, so yeah, it's just I've got a lot to sort through at some point because everything's like I said, it's not organised nowadays. All the content I have, but yeah, I think between like within our dynamic, our relationship with my daughter, I wouldn't change anything that's happened. How we've been, you can't change the issue with family court in the middle of everything. But I think I've handled it the best I can. Our relationship is as strong as it was before, so no one's managed to turn her against me, no matter how much at certain periods people did try. Um, yeah, the bond is there because it's been nurtured since childhood, and I just think, you know what, those that have lost control, you have got an uphill battle. But if you love your children, it's like stop being so controlling. Then I wrote like I haven't got the book in front of me, but in Heal Your Mind to Free Your Soul, I mentioned the fact that don't be so rigid with an outcome. If you've got an expectation of something, it's like, yeah, set a rule, but it's like, don't be so forceful with everything. It's, for instance, if you say to your children, I want you to change, I want your room tidied. Tidy your room. And expecting it done within half an hour, and then when it's not done, you start screaming, shouting, you reprimand them. It's like, this is just not realistic. Not everybody works at the same pace. Some people have ADHD, some people have attention deficit orders, all sorts of things. It's like as long as it's done by the end of the day, that's how I would be. Like if I'm like, for instance, if I'm with my daughter and her room's a mess, I'm going to say to her, look, that room better be. I want that room tidy by tomorrow. Like by the end of the day, that room better be tidy because we're not going to live like this. Um, I could say to her, tidy that room in half an hour. That better be done by the time I finish watching this TV program. What's the point? How do you just let them enjoy themselves as well? It will get done. It teaches them responsibility, but it's up to them to organise their time a little bit. Of course, if they haven't done it by then you can start laying down the law a little bit more. I always said to her, like when she starts dating boys, I said, if I, if you don't listen and you start behaving like a menace when you're older, I said, I haven't had to do it, but I did warn her even when she was little. And she was in shock. I said, I will take that door off its hinge. I said, I will remove the door. And she's like, "You what?" I kid you not. I said, I've got no problems taking doors off. um, so it's a case of if you show respect, you get respect, but there are limits and there are rules, and of course, um, it's not about. Do you know what it is? It's like when your child respects you, they don't want to disappoint you either. That's where it comes from. So, like when you set something in motion, yeah, okay, you might have to remind them a few times throughout the day. But hopefully you see progress as you go. So maybe you go in, maybe you check on them later, maybe they haven't finished it, but you can see they've been trying. And I think that's important. The fact that they're trying is everything. Again, expecting a specific outcome is your downfall. It really is, and it's like that, and that expectation in a short window, if someone, you got to put yourself in a child's shoes, but also give them grace period. If someone said to you, right now, go and sort your room out, go and sort a cupboard out. Everybody's got a space where there's a bit of a mess. Go and sort your kitchen out. Go and sort all the pans, organise it, get it done. I expect it done. When I finish my program, have that kitchen finished. You'd think, you what? That's how a child's thinking. Now, they might be below you in the hierarchy, but they're still a human being and they still expect to be treated with respect. If you can't talk to them with respect, guess what? They're not going to respect you. And when you give a ridiculous expectation out of nowhere, they haven't even had time to process it. And they've still got to try and figure out, let them be, is what I'm saying. It's like crazy people. There's too many people that just, they're so interested in being powerful. It's like, who can they dominate? Well, I can't dominate the average Joe because people speak back to me. Oh, I'm going to dominate my children, and then wonder why they hate me. It's like, that's really, it's to each their own. I just think communication is really important, and be fair with the expectations, of course. Like I say, I have a way that works, and I have no doubt if I had more children, it would work continuously. And I think my daughter has an incredible personality, though. I'm sure that helped, but I have no doubt that what I set in motion works. It's a lot harder if you step into someone else's situation, though. So when you jump into um, a relationship where someone else already has a child, it's hard to implement these ways of being, because sometimes the child can play one against the other. And I think that's where it gets difficult. I don't think a relationship can work in that situation, to be honest. If you've got a child playing one against the other and the other parent allows it, that's what it is. So both parents have to be united, and then you can create structure. If it's one saying this, one saying that, it's just, you might as well not bother. There's no point. The child's always going to choose the weaker parent, the one they can play, manipulate. But anyway, yeah, raising kids is not It's not. I don't think it's a perfect science, but once you've figured out I think the key parts, everything goes smoother. But stop trying to make children a copy of you. That's the other thing. Don't live vicariously through your children. Let's say you wanted to be great at sports, or you wanted to do this, you want to do that, and you didn't quite achieve it. Don't expect your children to achieve it for you. Don't do that. You want to achieve it, you achieve it. Let your children go and achieve their own goals and have their own dreams. That's the one thing I say to her, is like, I don't want you mirroring me. I just want you to be you, whatever that is. So if you decide in the future you just want to travel the world, travel the world. You want to have a family of your own one day, have a family of your own one day. You want to be a career-orientated person, be a career-orientated person. Whatever you want, you follow it. Whatever your dream is, you follow your dream. That's all I ask of her, is that she follows her dreams and doesn't let people deviate her from her path. So don't let people manipulate you. Don't let people give you a sob story to slow you down. Look beyond it and realize that people have their life to live. You have your life to live. So don't ever lose sight of your own dreams.